This is the story of my first time going to one of the scariest waves in the world, Maverick'S in Half Moon Bay, California. Something that I was nowhere near prepared for, but was opting to chase a different kind of feeling rather than face the problems that I really needed to head on with my own mental health and mental stability. Let's dive right into it. This is subbing in for day 506 of the vlog because I spent my entire waking hours shooting with Santa Cruz Medicinals for the Locked In show, which I will talk about a little bit more at the end. My first time surfing Maverick'S was December 7th of 2017, I believe. And it was the only time that I surfed it that year. Essentially, how it worked is I was working in a surf shop called Surf Ride. I worked there for way too many years. And within that time, I had somehow managed to acquire a Quicksilver inflate vest and a gun hand-shaped by a gun designed by John Pizell, a 10-4 Padillac. I was pushing myself a lot in bigger waves, but I definitely wasn't ready for what Maverick'S had to offer. Fortunately, I had been connected with a good friend, a now good family friend of ours, Tom Bulow, who was based in Los Osos at the time and was one of the guys who was surfing Maverick'S like in the early to mid 90s. He might not have been the best guy out there, but from some of the stories that he was telling me, like, this guy's nuts, and he's very inspiring in that because he just goes. It was cool because he took me up there and showed me around. It was the weekend before finals, and I was in school for mechanical engineering, which is a crazy thing to go and do when you have these finals that are worth 50-60% of your grade, to shirk all of the studying off to go chase this thing that you don't even know if you're ready for, or that if you really want anything to do with it. So I asked him about the swell. He said, come up, this is perfect. It was 11 feet at 18 seconds, straight west at like 270, I think, or 275, and sheet glass, low tide, like what kind of he mentioned to me is like perfect intro Maverick'S. Not gigantic, but definitely proper, glassy, and just like outright beautiful. So I drove to his house in Los Osos. He was one of the last houses before you went into the park there, which if you've been there, you know how like crazy that really is with all the waves that are kind of around that area. We woke up really early the next morning and drove all the way to Half Moon Bay, where at which point we bumped into Jeff Clark, who was a friend of Tom's from way back in the day. And to me, it was just like so mind-boggling because Jeff is this like crazy surfer who somehow managed to conquer the scariest wave in the world by himself for a long time. Truly an honor and just a cool experience all around with that. It was really high tide in the morning and I was so nervous. I really just wanted to go. I was like, I don't want to be thinking about this. I don't want to be worried. I just want to go. I want to get out there. I want to get out there. I want to get out there. And even Jeff was saying, no, like, just wait. He was so calm. He's like, it's high tide. It's not going to be good right now. So you shouldn't go out. And I was just like, come on, like, let's go. I just need to go. Like, I was so in the middle of dealing with my own mental health issues and some PTSD and severe anxiety and depression and all these things that I was battling that I just couldn't. I was like, I need to get out. And I was a freshman in college and I didn't know what was going on. It was the first time I had been living on my own. I was so overwhelmed and I needed like an escape. And I was like, it was like I was a drug addict and I hadn't even done it yet. Eventually, the tide started to drop a little bit. A couple waves started to cap on the bowl. And we made our way out there and I watched it for a couple hours. And the whole time that I was getting ready and going out, it was just this crazy, surreal experience. Everything was perfect. And for someone who wasn't ready for it, it was kind of insane to look back on it now because there was no wind, there was no fog, it was perfectly glassy. Still to this day, if I remember correctly, because some of those memories can be like kind of convoluted with other ones as you're new to certain things, but it was still one of the best days that I've personally ever seen out there, conditions wise. I felt like I was really part of the ocean in that time. And we made it out the back and I watched, I think, for an hour to an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the most. I think this would be somewhere between 12 and 2 p.m. And right when the tide started to rip out, there was more and more waves. And I caught myself kind of moving a little closer and a little closer. And I saw all these like people that I knew that surfed that wave paddling past me, going, you know, it's like Colin Dwyer and Peter Mell, Luca and Al, and like all these guys that I had heard about that were really making that place, like they just made that place look so easy. I was just sitting there like, holy crap, like this is insane. It's like watching the Super Bowl, but like being on the field, like in the field, you know, and willing to, and like able to participate, if that makes any sense. I was watching these like mounds of water come in. Like I had been surfing like bigger and bigger waves at Black's, and even like a 20-foot face at Black's compares nothing to a 20-foot face at Maverick'S, the way that it breaks. And it was crazy just rolling over these waves and sitting super wide. And like I was sitting with the old guys on the corner on the outside. And eventually everyone else kind of started to leave. And I just remember that it was like there really wasn't anybody else around. I swung and Tom was on the inside, and this set came to me, and I don't even like, it was one of those moments where you just don't even think, and everything is just moving and flowing, and there's no sort of like questioning. And I just remember spinning, and I took a handful of pedals, and I was right on the bowl, and I like fully airdropped on a board that I had never ridden before and stuck it, and then rode all the way out into the channel and was just in shock. And Tom was just like, what the, he was freaking out. And I was like, what just happened? And in that moment, it was just so surreal. It just felt like I was one with the ocean. It was my first time ever being out there, and that kind of solidified me wanting to pursue a relationship with that wave just from that one session. And I think to some extent, like, God or whatever you might believe in was protecting me and putting me in that moment so that I did have more experiences like that. Because in a situation like that where you're not prepared and you don't really know what the consequences are, it's really easy to get traumatized or like actually get hurt. Like, you can drown out there. It's not, you know, people have died at Maverick's. Crazy session of like emotions. And I remember I caught this wave and I rode it all the way in, like all the way past Mushroom Rock. And I couldn't believe it when I made it to the beach that like, wow, like I actually went out there and did that. But it was like so hard to believe, and I have some Surfline rewinds from that day. If I find them, I will have been playing them throughout this whole time. Going in, and then also participating in the culture of going to OPL, which is at the end of kind of the road leaving Maverick's, and it's the bar that everyone goes and hangs out at. There's old guns in the roof, you have like Ion's boards, and I think one of Jay's boards is in there, and like all the legends like Healy, Greg Long, Franny, you know, that was such a crazy experience as a freshman in college studying mechanical engineering, from a kid who like didn't start surfing until they were 16 to like, you know, I think that was what, 6 years after that, 6 years after learning to, or like really committing to surfing at least, to be out there and like get a few waves was insane. It was truly special. I still remember most of it so clearly to this day. And Tom had like taken me under his wing. He's like, no, this trip is for you. He wouldn't let me pay for anything. He was so kind and like warm and inviting, and I was freaking out. He's like, no, it's fine. You're good. You're all good. And I didn't fall and made it to the beach safely. We saw Jeff Clark afterwards, and it was crazy to see how invested he was in my session out there. And it's funny because, you know, I look at last year, and last year was by far my best big wave season to date. There's nothing that can touch that, especially out of Maverick's, because I got like 5 or 6 of like the biggest waves I've ever ridden last year. I was consistent. I got waves every session, and I just felt good. And I felt like that coming into this season, and I haven't even gotten any waves out there yet. You know, I got some really good waves at Nazare, don't get me wrong. And then like I went to Jaws and still didn't get waves. Granted, the waves were horrible. Like I could have gone out and tried, but it was like not good and small. But it's funny to think about those contrasts, and it just goes to show like that kind of goes along the lines of how you should look at life and how you see your life, and that it's not always going to be consistent. And when you're the most ready, it might not come, because it doesn't matter if you're ready in that sense, or you feel like you are ready. Like the ocean will dish out the waves that will change your life when you need them most, or you are truly ready at your core. And as much as it sucks, because like this channel has gotten more traction this year, and all these people are like, bro, this guy's, I'm sure there's just like so many, it's so confusing because it seems like I'm new to this, which I still am to some extent. Like I've been doing it for like 4 seasons now, 5 seasons. It might seem like I'm super new, but like I'm also like a pretty normal person. I went to school for engineering. I like didn't go in the ocean until I was older, and it's like a different perspective. And I feel like at times I hold myself to this standard of like trying to be this like crazy elite level athlete, which I definitely hold myself to, like diet, exercise, and that whole thing. But I also am me more than anything else. And it's like a crazy learning experience, and it's cool and it's fun. So I hope that like you see this, and you can see, if you go back to last year's vlogs, you can go and you can see the ebb and the flow, like how my life is moving. And maybe it's like, if you feel like what you're going through is hard and challenging, it's like, well, everyone does go through that, and you can see it in these videos because it's just up and down and up and down and up and down. And it should get you excited, because if it feels like you're at the bottom, that means you're right to, if you're putting the effort out there, you're right on your way to getting back up to the top. And if you didn't have those ebbs and flows, you wouldn't enjoy life. There would be no point. I don't know where the rest of this video went, but I hope that if you're watching this and you took the time to watch the rest of this video, I think this is like 8 or 9 minutes of me just talking, then you can do it. Whatever it is that you're thinking about, it's like, go for it, and don't expect to get it when you want. Expect to get it when you're ready. And if it doesn't come to you, it wasn't meant for you. If it doesn't come to you, it wasn't meant for you. That's all right. But the things that are meant for you will find their way to you. And as long as you put your best foot forward and you give it 100% every day, then you're ready to go. And 100% every day doesn't mean your best every day. It means your best performance ever every day. It means you're giving 100% of what you can for that day. And that's all right. So keep going. I really hope that we get another big swell soon, because I'm kind of, this really fired me back up. But I'll see you guys tomorrow.